Victoria, karibu Kenya.
Asante sana.
Yes. The first time we met was 3 years ago.
Yes.
Back in San Diego.
Yes.
What were you doing then and what are you doing now in San Diego?
So very much the same thing. So in San Diego, I work for the San Diego Zoo Institute for Conservation Research on the community engagement team. So I work with middle school and high school students, but during the summers I work with educators, science teachers who work with middle school and high school students. So that's our teacher workshops in conservation science, and that's where you and I met.
Yes.
And right now I'm still doing that same thing, but expanding, because now I get to have opportunities like this one, to be here sitting with you.
And it's the first time
It's my first time.
in Africa,
Yes.
at large,
Yes.
Kenya in particular.
Kenya in particular.
And now you are here to spread this conservation message, and you're largely involved in environmental education. And one question I get asked a lot is, what is environmental education?
So I think of environmental education as, of course, anything that works to educate students on nature, biodiversity, and how we are connected to the world around us.
Yes.
Nature, yeah.
And why is it important?
It's incredibly important because without it, none of us would be here. Humans, I think, in this day and age, we feel so removed from nature and separate from nature, which is one perspective, and in some ways that may be true, but in others, we are an animal species, just like everything else, and we depend so heavily on nature to survive, and not just because we depend on it, but because nature is itself incredibly important, and it's all we have. So if we don't preserve it,
yes, we will also be gone.
Exactly.
Yes, and you've talked about your work with teachers back in the United States, kind of training them to integrate conservation issues in the curriculum.
Yeah.
And now you are here in Kenya to also help the Kenyan teachers integrate these environmental issues in the curriculum. Why is it important to integrate these issues in the curriculum?
In the curriculum, because our students are the ones who are going to grow up to be the next generation, and if they are not given the information about what is going on in our world today, about how we are losing species at 1,000 times the rate that is normal, if they don't fully appreciate and understand the issues that our whole world is facing right now, then they will be ill-prepared to deal with those issues, and unfortunately that is the world that they're inheriting. But more importantly, it's really important for these students, of course, to understand the issues, but then to understand what they can do about it. So the actions that are being taken around the world, like here at Lewa, where you're engaging the communities, and this is a model of conservation success. And so it's really important for students to know what are the different methods for fixing things, for making it better, and the roles that they can play, and specifically how it affects them and what they can do.
Fantastic. So, can you describe your journey to becoming who you are today?
Yes.
Yes.
So I have always loved nature. I've always felt very appreciative of it, and I've just always thought that there was something that we had to do to protect the environment, is always how I thought about it. And so when I went to college, I remember sitting on my bed, and I had the book of all the different majors. So it was time for me to decide what was I going to major in. And so I flipped through all the majors, and I read all the criteria. But really, I didn't have to, because I already knew that environmental science was what I wanted to do. So that's just always what I've been super interested in, and what I've always thought was really important. So I pursued that, also in part because I've always felt that what I wanted to do in life was make a difference. I grew up watching my mother have a job that she did not like, And that made a really big impact on me. And so I knew that whatever it was I did in life, that it had to be important. It had to be important to me. And taking care of our planet and taking care of our ecosystems is important to me. So that is what I pursued. Those were the courses I took. And I was very fortunate to have opportunities to have internships. What's the word that you use in Kenya? Attachments. Yeah, attachments.
So we have attachment that is formal, and then internship. So once someone is done with the university, and maybe you've not found a job, but you're looking for experience.
So you do internships.
Yes. So you
okay. So I did both. I did attachments, and I worked with a local summer camp that was called Biocitizen, and the goal was to take these kids and take them out hiking, get them in nature, canoeing on the rivers, and that was a really great experience. The following summer, I had the opportunity to go work at a NOAA research facility. So that's our, in the United States, that's the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. So they do a lot of ocean science and climate science, and I went to South Carolina in Charleston, and I just did some learning about what it meant to do a real formal attachment at a science institution. I had never set foot in a real research setting, in a real research facility, so that was eye-opening. The following summer I went to a different NOAA facility in Mississippi, and I got to work on turtle surveys. So I would go out on fishing piers and I would interview fishermen and anglers to see if they had ever accidentally caught a sea turtle, because they were doing a lot of sea turtle research. So that was really my very first time doing community-based conservation in that sense, working with people in regards to conservation in a formal science setting. The following summer after I graduated, I went to Belize and I helped run a summer camp for the local students there that was focused on coral reef conservation. So I kind of accidentally fell into environmental education. I always thought I would do research, but I found that education was really important.
And now it's close to your heart.
It is incredible.
And I know in environmental education, there are a number of learning methods that are considered effective. And I know one that is also close to your heart is inquiry-based learning.
Yes.
They have a ton of questions, they're really interested in what you're talking, you feel more energized, right? So it can be really exciting for everybody.
What is it? And what does it entail?
It's funny. There's many answers to that question as you learn when you start learning about inquiry.
Yes.
There's no one good definition
No one
for
good
it.
definition. So go with the simplest.
The simplest.
Yes.
So inquiry, I find, is really about making your own discoveries, right? So in classrooms, in formal classrooms, and I experienced this as well when I was in school, we tend to give these very structured labs, and it's the answer is already predetermined, and there's a right and a wrong answer. But inquiry is more about coming up with your own questions, the questions that you think are interesting, and going out and finding the answers, because that's what real researchers do. They have their own questions, and nobody is telling them how to do it or what the answer is. So you have to figure it out for yourself, and it's challenging and it can be frustrating, but that is real science. And so incorporating that into our classrooms helps students learn that process.
So they kind of discover, come across information in their own way.
In their own way.
And that helps them construct maybe in their own way knowledge.
Exactly, because one of the things that we've learned is that if I just tell you the answer, then the only way that you're going to learn is then to just memorize it. Whereas if you learn the answer for yourself, you gain that new knowledge and you make connections in a way that makes sense to you, and you relate it to previous knowledge. And in that way, you're more likely to truly learn that new fact or that new piece of information because you have discovered it for yourself. It's more meaningful and
sticks for a long time.
It sticks for a long time. It does a better job, I think. And it's more interesting for students than just memorizing.
Memorizing, the rote learning.
The rote learning, exactly.
So, Victoria, someone maybe wants to be a conservationist, but they don't know where to start. Yes. What advice would you share with them?
It can so depend on where you're coming from, but there's a number of different things. If you can, of course, to take classes. If you're, at a young age to go to college, university, and take those classes and pursue that. Another thing is to volunteer. If you can, to find those opportunities, those conservation opportunities, because for the most part, they exist all around us, right? You have parks, or you have lots of different organizations that are working to conserve nature. And so if you're able to, go to them and offer your time, volunteer, because that is just the best way to get experience is hands-on. I can never stress enough the importance of the attachments and the internships, how important those are for getting that real-world experience, and also so that you learn if that's really something that you want to do. And then, of course, if none of those opportunities are available to you, then start your own, You can go online and do a lot of research as well of your own, and go out and kind of start your own conservation projects. What's important to you, and if nobody is working on it, go for it. Go ahead and do it,
And what's important to you as well, you will always find a way to do it.
Yeah.
And there are free online courses as well.
There's lots of, there are, it can really be overwhelming, and I remember being that student of, thinking like, how do I get to that spot, and every path is different. There's no one right path. There's many different ways.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Asante sana.
Asante sana,
And keep up the good work.
You too.